US President Donald Trump is heading to China this week to meet with President Xi Jinping. The summit comes in the middle of a fragile trade truce between Washington and Beijing, an artificial intelligence rivalry, and the US and Israel's war in Iran. To take us through the meeting, I'm joined now by Mondschein, a Director of Research at the US Studies Centre. Jared, thanks so much for your time. This is Donald Trump's first visit to China since 2017. Things have changed quite significantly since then. What will be at the top of the agenda this week for each of these countries?
I think both of them are in many ways locked into this era of strategic competition. And that means they're both trying in this meeting to minimize their vulnerabilities to each other. So China wants to secure access to semiconductors, high-end semiconductors, and to not let the U.S. somehow cut them off from that. The United States is very sensitive to critical minerals and the way that China has limited their export around the world, with being that China processes some 90% of them. So I think in this meeting, they're going to basically have this one-on-one discussion in which they are going to highlight the areas of cooperation, but also trying to, if they can, minimize their areas of friction and minimize their vulnerabilities to each other.
There's been a bit of an ongoing sort of tit-for-tat tariff war over the last little while. Are we likely to see any resolution, do you think, in terms of this trade war?
I think what we've seen in these summits, not just with President Trump, but with prior presidents as well, is that the sort of bilateral meeting between a U.S. president and Xi Jinping, who is essentially president for life at this point in China, leads to some stabilization, some quelling of tensions. But because we are in this era of strategic competition, I don't think that it's a sort of long-lasting ceasefire. It's something, this is structural in my view, in the way that the U.S. and China have very few areas of cooperation. There definitely are some areas of cooperation and areas where they want to work together, but that list has decreased over the last 20 years in particular. And I think even as something as simple as public health is not something that they can get along with about anymore, given what happened the last time President Trump was in the Oval Office and was meeting with China. And that was COVID-19 and the pandemic, and the way that China does not want to talk about it. So they definitely do want to find areas of complementarity to each other, and Donald Trump does like Xi Jinping personally, he says. But I think, again, the friction, I think, is almost inevitable to rear its head again.
Jared, Donald Trump is bringing with him a long list of business executives. We've got Elon Musk, Apple's Tim Cook, executives from Meta and Boeing. What are they expected to bring to discussions in China?
If there's anything we know about President Trump, is that he is not a career politician. He came to politics late, and he really does see himself as a successful businessman. And so he thinks it's all about, as his book was titled, The Art of the Deal. So he sees business negotiations, he sees U.S. commercial engagement with China as in America's interest. And more than anything else, what sort of is distinct about him is the way that he sees the trade balance between the U.S. and China as really indicative of basically America's prosperity. And the fact that it has been, the deficit between the U.S. and China and their trade balance has been increasing over decades now, is not something that he wants to continue. So as a result, I think we will likely see pressure from or support from President Trump for commercial deals, including with Tesla, with Apple, with the 17 CEOs altogether or executives coming to this meeting. I think we are going to see some support for that. But again, the question is, how long will this last? Because we've seen such deals before, and they don't last very long.
Artificial intelligence is also expected to be something that they discuss. It's got implications across every facet of society now, defence, intelligence and everyday life. Both China and the United States are trying to position themselves as sort of the AI capital of the world. Is there room for two superpowers here?
There definitely is an appetite for two superpowers, because at the end of the day, you only need to look at any of the American business news to see just how expensive AI is not only to operate for the AI companies, but also to use it for companies that want to incorporate those AI technologies into their platforms. China, on the other hand, is trying to take a different model with AI and trying to go for low cost. And in many ways, this allows China access to a lot of the developing world markets. The question, though, this begets is that sustainable? Is this politically sustainable for these developing markets? We've seen before when China does have an economic market share in certain countries, they have leveraged it to their advantage for engaging in economic coercion. We saw this with Australia in 2020. And the question is, will we see this in other countries moving forward because of the way that China has behaved in the past and because of the market dominance China is growing in a lot of the developing world?
Jared Mondschein, always appreciate your analysis. Thanks very much for your time.
My pleasure.